All right, welcome everyone back to another edition of the Broker to Broker podcast. I am your host, Marc Summers, founding president of AIME. Today, I was introduced to this individual last week. I thought he'd be great for the podcast. We had a great phone conversation. It's just like what I was telling him, and I'll introduce him here in a second. Is we all have our cliques. We all know people within this industry, but I want to broaden that horizon as much as possible because there's so many great people in this industry, and I think I found one here. So I'd like to introduce Ryan Whitfield, who is a home loan specialist for C2 Financial. Ryan, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Marc. I appreciate the kind words, man.
Yeah, no problem, dude. So, all right, let's hop into it. Like one of the things, Ryan, that you and I talked about, over the phone and kind of like a pre-production thing was, like how you use your past experience to build the business you have. So diving into that, I want to know kind of like, how did you get to C2? Where did your broker journey start? What did you do before that?
Yeah, so not getting too far in the nitty-gritty details of that, but in my previous life, I was a pastor for 10 years.
Okay.
And so that was my experience. We had some circumstances that led to my wife and I and our newborn son moving back to Tallahassee, Florida, which is our hometown. And I was kind of in the scenario where I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm not part of a church to pastor anymore at that time. And so I didn't really know what was next. And I kind of had this new reality where I got to sort of reinvent what I was going to do, which is fun and also overwhelming all at the same time. Right. And I thought about maybe going back to school. I had previously another life. I had worked for a pair of investors finding investment opportunities in real estate. So I was like, well, maybe I'll do that for myself. And I actually was down that track in 2021. It would have been this time that I met a broker owner, and he said, "Hey, look, I pay thousands of dollars of leads every month, and basically at your convenience, you take the leads and you make money." And to me, at that time, that sounded really easy, like a no-brainer.
Yeah, a little
right?
too easy.
I mean, and if you have any interest in real estate, you're obviously going to have interest in the financing piece, right? If you've ever bought a house before, you want to know what's going on in the back end. So that was kind of what was piquing my interest at the time. And so I did that. So the end of 2021, I got my license. I started taking those leads at the beginning of 2022. I took 250 leads my first year in 2022. And 6 of those went to closing.
Wow,
so, yeah. And again, there are people that know how to do that, and they do it well. And that is their bread and butter. And to those folks that do that, hats off to you. I could not figure that out, at least not in my first year. And so, again, by this time, I'm in Tallahassee, and I'm thinking to myself, I can find 6 people in my hometown to trust me to originate their loan for them. So I started exploring, what does it look like to just build relationships with referral partners? What is a referral partner, right? I didn't realize that there's these realtors that we can befriend, and, maybe they'll throw me a lead here and there, right? So I started just sort of to study that a little bit more, understand what that looks like. And so really rounding into 2023 would have been around this time, is when I had exactly an idea of how I wanted to build my business. I just need to be somewhere that would provide the protection, the umbrella for lender relationships, and most importantly, compliance. I have no problem saying that I'm oblivious in the world of compliance. I need someone to babysit me. And so at the time, had a really good friend. You probably never heard of him, Dave Kakish, right? You don't need to.
Oh, I know him.
Yeah, right. Dave and I went to college together, so we started around the same time. He's crushing it where he's at. I'm unhappy where I'm at, so I reached out to him, learn about C2 Financial, and I pulled the trigger on that pretty quickly. And I can happily say that I'm really happy with where I'm at, in the sense that they do exactly what I need. They provide me all the lender relationships I need. They handle all the compliance, and they basically just turn us loose to run our own business the way we want to run it. And so that's a bit of a longer explanation, but that's how I got into lending.
No, it's good because it's good to hear about people's experience. I finally did meet someone who said, "Yeah, I grew up in this industry." So I was like, "Damn it, I finally found someone." But at the same time, that's one in a million there, and then there's nothing wrong with that. But I love hearing people's experiences and how they use it to build their business, whether it was a good experience or bad experience. You can always learn from it. That's why I tell people all the time. And you obviously came through in a different way, which is good. It's kind of built your business the way it is. But now that you're in it, you've been in it, what is that? My math's right, about 5 years?
About 5 years.
Yeah, about 5 years. Like, do you wish you would have went in a different direction, like right away?
Yeah, I mean, again, previously being a pastor, I'm going to look at this from the standpoint of like, thank God I'm in an industry that allows me to connect with people on a very personal level and build trust in a way that, to be honest, is not much different than what I was doing. And that's probably one of the big things I want to make sure that I talk about on this podcast would be the fact that your previous career is really, we like to sometimes think of it as the bridge to getting to where we're going, being in lending. But to be honest, every person that's in lending, everyone that's a broker, everyone that's listening to this, you built a boat around, or I'm sorry, a moat around this. And it's really those years that you've spent dedicated to something else that you're able to use a skill set to transfer over into what you're doing now in lending. I mean, that's the greatest example of that is like, why are veterans the best at VA lending? They speak the language, right? Like I stand no chance in that world. I didn't serve, and I really appreciate those that did. But at the end of the day, like veterans are fantastic at VA loans. And so for me, I've got 10 years of experience in building trust with people, helping them recognize that something that might appear complicated really isn't all that complicated. And I just bridge those over to what I'm doing now. So like first-time home buyers are a huge niche for me. I have referral partners who have faithfully been working with other lenders for years, but when they get younger first-time home buyers, they want them to work with me because that's just an area that I would do much more hand-holding and make sure that I over-explain the process for.
Yeah, no, that first-time home buyer niche, man, if you treat them right, you got to have a client for life there. You know what I mean? And it's reading them, learning how to connect with them, and learning like basically what do they need to be taught? What do they need hand holding on? You don't want to you don't want to offend them either, but at the same time, they need a lot of hand holding.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So no matter what you did, my first job in sales, I sold copiers and I had to cold call businesses one after the other and learn to do that. I mean, and that's why the idea of picking up the phone and calling realtors for me when I first got started, that wasn't as difficult because I'm like, this is a lot easier than getting yelled at by a receptionist downtown in the attorney's office. The person just hang up on me or tell me to pound sand. Like, I'm fine with that. That's fine.
You'll probably never see them out in public, and if you do, they won't even recognize who you are.
Exactly. That's right.
All right. So now that you're in the business, like one of the things that I like to look at this podcast as is a way to give back to the community. You know what I mean? Whether it's just new advice, whether it's someone new in our industry listening, whether it's someone from retail coming over and they're like, oh, is this the right move? And let's be honest here. If you're in retail and you're listening to this, get over to the broker channel. I mean, it's a no-brainer. But like, what are some of the things that now that you wish you would have had in the beginning?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely leveraging my previous experience and people building trust with me. I mean, again, I can't overstate that. When I first got into lending, my idea of being in lending was the retail, lender working at a bank. And so I think my first photo, I had the jacket and the tie on and all this stuff. It's like, trust me. And I'm like, it's just that's not naturally who I am when people meet with me. And so I wanted to be something a little bit more natural, represented where I am now and what represents me. And so, I mean, that's a huge benefit, obviously, in the broker space as well. Something I really wish someone imparted upon me was to not only focus on building the business, but have an idea of what you want your business to look like once it's built. And the idea of, for me personally, it's building a career around your family, not your family around the career. A lot of us, whether it's on the lending side or even realtors, get in with this lie that you get to make your own schedule and you work when it's convenient. Well, the business will run you if you let it. And so after, a couple of years, I started to realize like, man, I want to make sure I have time for my kids. My wife's an ophthalmologist. And so my kid's sick. My wife can't cancel 40 clients for the day, right? It needs to be me. And so I got to a place I'm like, you know what? I might lose some business or have some downtime of income for a few months, maybe even a year, where I'm going to focus on building relationships with the right people that prioritizes my family over my career. And, I had the opportunity, even here in Tallahassee, to partner up and work with some of our top producing realtors. And a lot of those people are amazing and I have great relationships with them. But then there's also some who are going to, that's their identity. They're going to want you to pick up at 7 a.m. or 7 p.m. They're going to want you to produce expedited pre-approvals in the middle of the night and things like that. And you do that enough times and you go back and you look at the numbers, you're like, I did 2 loans with that person this past year. And it was just because I had the lowest rate. Let's accept it. It's because my rate was better than the banks. And I have to ask myself, is that really the lifestyle I want to live? And is that the partnerships that I want to create? And the answer is obviously no. And what's amazing is that for me personally, when I made that decision that I'm going to partner with the people I want to partner with, who I enjoy living life with, who if they need marketing dollars, I can throw it at whatever that endeavor is, unasked, knowing that it's going to come to bear fruit later down the road. Once I started focusing on those relationships, the business just continued to improve and improve. And so year after year, the business, it's only been 5 years, but year after year, the business continues to improve for me. And it's just, again, identifying the people that you want to work with and not making sacrifices in those non-negotiable areas like family.
Dude, I'm so glad you brought that up, and it's not like a power trip or I want people just severing ties with some of their referral sources. But I was with someone, and this has to be about 2 weeks ago now, and their phone rings, and they look at it and they literally roll their eyes and go, oh. I'm like, who is that? They're like, it's a realtor. It's my biggest referral source. I'm like, that's not how it should be. Right off you should be like, hey, Ryan, what's up? What can I help you with? You should be excited to talk to them. It shouldn't
Absolutely.
be a job. It's like friendship, right? Like I focus on friendships where I don't have to feel like I have to work at it. You know what I mean? The friendships are just there, right?
Absolutely.
So no, it's interesting you brought that up. So when you're calling these realtors, like you said you were, like what was your pitch within reason, and like how long does it take you to realize that this really isn't a referral source for me because it's really not a partnership?
Man, that's a really great question. So when I first started trying to build relationships in the business, specifically with realtors, I approached that from the coaching of mortgage marketing animals, which, by the way, like if you're brand new in the industry, that's a great route to take. You're like, what are you going to lose cold calling people? Like at the end of the day, I built up a lot of friendships that way. People where I work in my community became familiar with me, whether they were telling me to pound sand or not, right? Like they still knew me. They recognized my pre-approval letter when it did come across. And so, I think that what naturally just happened was it went from me, and again, there's nothing wrong with this approach, but you kind of get to a place where you have to stop the groveling and you have to start kind of thinning the herd and failing upwards. And I remember they would talk about this on podcasts and episodes, firing realtors. I'm like, in what world is that even possible? Can I fire a realtor? And I got to a place where there were a couple of realtors, specifically, not naming any names, but like really I was getting leads for either the lowest rate or down payment assistance. And I had to ask myself, and there's nothing wrong with down payment assistance, by the way. We have Florida Hometown Heroes here. It's a fantastic program and I love it. But I had to ask myself, like, is this what I want to do? Is this really what I want my business to be made up of? Is this the type of loan programs and partnerships that I want to throw across my social media feed? And if we have to be honest, the answer just was no. Because again, it was me groveling for business and then becoming a vendor, not a partner. And at the end of the day, like if you want to be a vendor, if you want to advertise to people that your greatest value add is that you have the lowest rate or you don't charge a processing fee, you're going to elevate your greatest value add being the one thing that people shop you for the most. And so, and I'm kind of getting carried away here a little further down the train.
No, not at all.
At the end of the day, like what is your value add? If your value add is lowest rate, then you better be committed to having the lowest rate in your town. Otherwise, figure out what your value is and then become a partner in that.
No, I love that attitude. So let me ask you, Ryan, what is your value add? Like, let's say you're in a room with a brand new realtor, heavy hitting realtor in your area. Like, how are you attacking that realtor to show them your value add, and what is it?
Yeah, that's great. I feel like I've morphed it over the years. I obviously did steadily repeat the mantra for some coaching programs that existed when I'm meeting with realtors, and those are great programs and great scripts. I've really gotten to a place where I simplified it down to where I will tell a realtor that there's 2 things that matter most to me, and strategic financing paired with lifelong value. So strategic financing paired with lifelong value. And the reason why I'm heavy emphasis on the lifelong value part was because I spent so many years only focusing on the financing. In the broker space, we have the huge advantage of being able to just simply fund loans that a lot of the local banks and credit unions won't touch. And I'll use that as an opportunity to get my foot in the door with a referral partner and to build that relationship with them. And I'll help them understand, like, hey, this defunct condo is not going to be very simple. It's not going to be a 7-day clear to close. Give me some time, but see that we get it clear to close. Just imagine what we can do with your agency files. Like, just imagine how fast we can move on those, right? And so I've gotten to where I focused on the strategic financing pair with the lifelong value, because I realized that lifelong value for me personally had to be going beyond just calling my past client database and talking to them or leaving a voicemail once a quarter. I wanted to just find a way to go where I wasn't having to focus so much on building business off of my realtor partners, but also going into my book of business, my database, developing my own leads to return that to my realtor partners. So I wanted to provide some sort of reciprocity. And there's a book out there. It's 24/7 Mindset by Wally. I can never say it right. Eliberry. I'm so sorry, Wally.
Is it Elleberry? No.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Wally's a great guy, by the way. So, but basically, Wally just like kind of creates this system where you are truly presenting lifelong value for your clients, all the way from Florida homestead exemption, reminding them to apply for homestead exemption, showing them the efficiency of their mortgage and annual mortgage reviews. And so in doing that, always creating opportunity to hopefully generate business and even interest that you could bring back to the referral partner that brought them to you to begin with. So again, strategic financing, lifelong value, those are kind of my two focus areas, at least for this point in time.
All right, well, let's go. I'm going to go down two different routes here. We'll go down route one first. All right, so you have these referral partners. What, besides just trying to give them leads, you know what I mean? What else are you doing for them? Do you have like a time block where it's I'm contacting them this so many times? Like, how are you maintaining those referral partners?
Yeah, it sounds simple, but one of the most important things I have found that the referral partner wants is just consistency. They want to know if they send you a lead, that you're following up with the lead. And if they're not hearing back, you're following up with the actual referral partner. They want to know that the buyer properly understands that they're not just pre-approved, but what they're pre-approved for. They want to have a clear mortgage plan so they understand what their closing costs are. And so a large part, if I'm meeting with a new referral partner, not only am I selling strategic financing, lifelong value, but I'm really selling a system. I'm letting them understand that we have a system in place to ensure that throughout the week, we are steadily checking on these buyers all the way from new lead to closing to post-closing to ensure that we are doing our part in that relationship. Because again, if you can't just present them with a lead right there on the spot, the least you can do is help them understand that, like, if you send this to me, I promise you that we will take very, very good care of your client. And again, part of my skill set is building that trust, not just with the partner, but also with the client. And so that's why I also ensure that when a client closes, we're also trying to help our referral partner get Google reviews through the clients as well, not just ourselves. I think that's big. That's like such a small little thing. If you can get a Google review for your realtor, especially a new realtor, you will get 100% of their business easily.
I agree. I 100% agree with that. And that's a good point, because I think, a lot of us will always take care of the client. I mean, I think, when it comes to mortgages, brokers are the best at that, right? We take care of the clients like no one else's business, but it's very, very important to take care of that referral partner too throughout the process of it. They love to know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the other thing I would add to there would be just,
go ahead.
When we talk about the business, the family aspect of things too, like, don't hesitate, and this was me, don't hesitate to buy back your time. So Dan Martell has a book, Buy Back Your Time. I stole that from him. But the idea of scaling is something that we feel like we have to be in the Scotsman's Guide, which, by the way, I'm not. But you have to be a Scotsman guide to do any form of scaling. Even this year alone, like I said, my processor, Jamie, and I, shout out Jamie, we just wanted to figure out what the gaps were in our process. And she's a third-party processor, but she's on my team, and she knows that, and I need her. And so we wanted to figure out what we could do to make the process better. And so even we've failed upwards in doing this, but even within the past few months, we brought on a pre-approval specialist who's also a C2 financial branch manager, Catherine Price. Shout out, Catherine, who
Another
has been
shout
able
out.
to steadily get it to where I could focus on the prospecting, right? And I'm not sacrificing family time. And they are absolutely dominating the back end. So we actually did our call. We wrapped it up 10 minutes before I hopped on this. And the two of them are just literally explaining everything going on, anything that we don't know. They're just communicating with between each other. And I'm sitting there like, this is the dream, man. Like, I don't have to do this after hours. They're doing it now. So don't be afraid to scale. It's huge.
No, I absolutely love that. No, and you know, you told me about that call, so I appreciate you getting off of it so you could get on.
Yeah,
But no,
absolutely.
having a good team behind you is huge. You know what I mean? And I like that terminology you use. You know, failing upwards. You know, but like once you have that process done, like if you just always have to come back to the fact of what do we do for a living, and it's prospecting. That's what we do for a living. I mean, really, how much time do you actually spend on that loan? You know, it's not a lot of time. It's really not. So now that we're talking about the loan itself, and you brought up earlier, this is route 2 I'm going down, your book of business, right? And I've said this a million times on the podcast now, if you don't take care of your book of business, someone else will. I promise you that. So how are you taking care of your book of business? Do you have like a flow chart, or like, I got to make sure I do XYZ every quarter, every month? Like, how are you taking care of your current database?
Yeah, there's a lot of stokes in the fire on that right now because I want it to be better, especially as the database grows. It used to be just calling them once a quarter and saying, hey, and that's what I offered, and asking for more business, right? And I realized that there was a lot more value to be added there. So a few different things going on right now. Like one thing is building a tool, a resource. Thank God for AI, right? That will allow my buyers at 6 months and 12 months to be able to identify the efficiency of their mortgage in the market. If there is an opportunity that they need to take advantage of to refi, they understand what that looks like. At the same time, if they just want to know how it's performing against their neighbors and against the guy that bought the house down the street, they have a very clear picture of what that looks like. So that's one thing. Again, being able to have a call 30 days post close with a buyer with a link that you texted them with homestead exemption in Florida, that's huge. That's amazing. Especially like if we talk about getting this down to where homestead exemption goes from $50,000 to $250,000, to miss out on that privilege, if you miss out on the first year, you pay the penalty of that for as long as you own the home. So it's very important that my clients all get homestead exemption immediately. That's one. And then like just doing fun things for the clients as well. Like sometimes I'll have a survey that I really would love to get filled out that helps me, just improve our system and process. And so like I'll just send an SMS out blast out like, hey, can you just fill out a survey for me so I can get a better picture of how to improve, and like fill it out, and I'll shoot them over a Starbucks gift card. Like I just love engaging on that level with my clients. I'll spontaneously call them if something that comes up that reminds me. I'll text things over to them. I just try to maintain a steady relationship with the clients. Now I realize as that book of business grows, that's not going to be as feasible. And so right now it makes sense, but right now I just do my best to stay in front of them as much as possible and to ensure that if there's any conversation related to the mortgage or anyone's bringing that up to them, I'm the first call they make, which, thanks be to God, that has been the case for the most part.
Well, and I also look at it this way. I mean, I all think we should have processes and systems in place for your current book of business. There's no doubt about that. I don't disagree with that one bit. But the other thing is this: if you treat them right during the process and go above and beyond and create that relationship with them where they think you're the world, you actually don't have to work as hard on that later on. You don't. I think you should. Just want to make sure I'm clear here. I don't want to see a clip of this saying Marc said you don't have to work as hard for your current book of business. That's not what I'm saying here. What I'm trying to say is that if you do the right things during that process, be personable, create a relationship with them, do the loan the right way, set proper expectations, under promise, over deliver, you don't have to work as hard with that client anymore.
Absolutely. And take ownership of your business. I mean, surprise, I've made mistakes, right? Like I thought a guideline would pass and it didn't for something I was trying to attempt. And if you make a mistake, take ownership of the business, and the best thing you can do in that process and say, I was wrong, I'm so sorry, I'm gonna do everything I can to fix this. I a deal recently where like I had to, basically find myself in a situation where compensation was being eaten out the wazoo for us to fund the loan because I made the mistake. So I was going to pay for the mistake. But again, it's not about the money. It's about you being able to set the pride aside and be able to tell someone, I made a mistake. I'm sorry. That means a ton to the borrower. It means a ton to the referral partner. I've never had a buyer upset with me if I've apologized. Let's put it that way.
Right.
If I've taken ownership of the mistake, they understand the mistake and we're able to move forward.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, I'm gonna switch gears in here. I got you for a few more minutes, Ryan. You've been very, very active in the Brokers Are Best Facebook group page. I appreciate that. I mean, let's just be honest here. That's kind of how we met. But at the same time, like you're in the community a lot now, and we'll call it a newer person coming into the community. What do you like about like our Facebook group page? What do you like that you see going on with AIME? Like, what is it doing for you?
Yeah, the Brokers Are Best Facebook page is by far the greatest resource I have at my disposal. I'm not kidding. When I think one of my recent posts was regarding a scenario for hard money. We had a DSCR loan kind of going wonky, so I was just getting feelers out there. It got blown up by like 24 people that I've established contact with. And if something happens with that loan, I will pull the trigger on any of those people and be ready. By the way, pull the trigger mean like I will pull the trigger and move forward with them. So sorry.
I know what you meant.
You guys are like these Florida boys. We don't know what we're getting into. No, that's not what I meant. But no, I'm able to do that opportunity and honestly understand the guidelines, being able to just get a better idea of what's out there. Like you're going to be able to do that so well in the Facebook group. I unfortunately have only been able to go to Fuse one time, but when I went to Fuse that one time, it was invaluable, not just for the people that spoke and the information they shared, but also the relationships that I built. So I didn't know anyone at C2 Financial other than one person who I went to college with. I went to Fuse that one time and I met like 50 people who to this day that I've been able to have little relationships and talks with since then that are not even at C2 either. So I met a lot of new people as well. This is a space where like, man, we are in it to win it and we're in it together. And I mean, it's always just a privilege to like run spontaneously into another broker and hear how they're running their business. But again, staying on the topic, the Brokers Are Best Facebook page is one of the best resources. If I talk to a broker who's not on it, I make them join with me in front of them. I'm like, you have to join this right now.
That's awesome. Thank you for doing that. Yeah, no, like so when I do my little speeches and we talk about benefits, and one of them obviously is the Brokers Are Best Facebook group page, I sit there and tell them, I'm like, the best advice you can get on a scenario, on a condition that you need cleared is from your peers, because I can almost promise you that someone else has gone through this before. So don't go through their same trials and tribulations, just ask, because that's what this community does, is we share a ton, you know what I mean? And I'm like, it's guidelines on steroids, really, is what that Facebook page is. It's mortgages, guidelines, scaling, it's whatever you want it to be on steroids.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and the I forget the proper name for it, you got to forgive me, but the lender escalation, that's the word.
Oh yeah, I'm on escalations all the time.
Oh my gosh, that pays for itself, man. Like that is this is the easiest membership in itself. If you have that in your back pocket for a non-QM loan, like I actually had to use one for the first time ever a few months back. And it's just amazing how overnight my argument with the underwriter goes to approved and clear to close. And I'm like, wow, that was amazing. So
yeah,
you have to have that.
It's funny because like I'll have people contact me all the time because I live in escalations. I really do. It's kind of that weird thing where it's like I don't look at it as someone's problem. I really don't. I look at it as some way I can help someone. You know what I mean? And whether that's just nudging it along a little bit. But I always have people call me. It's got to be at least twice a month where they'll say, okay, Mark, I just put in an escalation. It's my first one. I never wanted to do this. Why? Just do it. Just do it. That's what we're here for. That's one of the big things that we're here for. So no, Ryan, hey, listen, I really appreciate the kind words about AIME. I really appreciate you, jumping on this podcast with us. The AIME world now knows you, hopefully a little bit even better than what they did. And just really appreciate all you're doing. And thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, man, I appreciate the opportunity and thank you for all that you're doing for our community. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up there. So brokers, if you want to catch up on all of our past podcast episodes, please head over to aimgroup.com/broker to broker. You can also listen and watch all of them on iTunes, Spotify, anywhere else where you can download podcasts. If you're on YouTube, our handle's at AIME National. Please go there for all of our great wholesale content. Just do me a favor, download it, leave a review, listen, spread the word. It helps us spread the word and providing to the world that brokers are best. And Ryan, you're one of them. And once again, thanks for your time, bud.
Thanks, man.